The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to the last in the Pennsylvania Youth Leadership Network's webinar series. Today's topic is empowerment, speaking up for yourself. I'm thrilled that everyone was able to join us. Just a couple of technical issues I wanted to talk about before we get started. You'll notice that you have a section on your computer screen where you can ask questions. Please feel free throughout today's broadcast to ask questions to either Milo or to Ev. If anything comes up or if you have a question for either of the guys this morning. The other thing that I'd like for folks to do, if in that question box, if you could tell us who's out there, if you could tell us the site and how many folks are at each site, that would be great. It kind of keeps us updated as far as who's watching our broadcast, because we know that at a lot of places there's sites that have more than one person in attendance. So again, if you could let us know kind of who's out there and how many folks are at the sites, that would be great. Really pleased today to have two of our PYLN board members with us. We have Milo, Chris Milo, and we have Ev Deibler. And I'm going to transfer first over to Milo, and then he's going to introduce himself, and then we'll cross over to Ev. So just give me 1 second, and we will switch to Milo. Okay, Milo, over to you.
All right, can you guys see me?
Yep.
All right, my name's Chris Milo. Most people call me Milo. I'm on the PYLN board, have been for almost a year now, 9 months maybe. And I'm sort of the technical computery person working on the website and all the other graphic type stuff for PYLN.
Great. Good morning, Milo. And I'm going to switch this over to Ev. And Ev's going to introduce himself, and he's going to take us through the first parts of the PowerPoint. So Ev, over to you.
Hey guys, good morning. I know you guys probably recognize my face, and you probably have seen Milo if you've been on this whole series. Just wanted to say hello and kind of get started, but I also just want to encourage you guys again to ask questions, even if it's not necessarily about the topic that we're talking about. If you just have a question that comes up as we're going through some stuff today, just feel free to ask, because we're here to answer your questions and help you out. And I hope you have fun today. And for those of you who haven't, met me or know, I have been a PYLN board member forever, almost like 5 years now, since it started pretty much. I am a college student at Millersville University, and I'm going to school to be a secondary ed social studies teacher. And the PYLN has helped me to realize that's what I want to do in my career. So it's been a big part of my life. And so with that said, today we're going to talk about empowerment and speaking up for yourself. If you were on the last webinar, you remember that we actually talked about advocacy and empowerment and what it means to be empowered. So today we're going to talk about, once you've learned those things, how can you then take that empowerment and knowing advocacy skills to then speak up for yourself and make changes in the world? Because really, the definition of empowerment is to understand yourself and know how to communicate those things to people, and then use that to make positive change in the world. So again, just as a reminder, as a review from last time, we talked about how it's your voice and your choice. That basically means that you have to speak your mind, and it's your choice, it's your life, it's your decisions to be made. And again, advocacy has no age limit. Just because you're a young person doesn't mean that you can't advocate for yourself and let people know the things that you're thinking and the ways that you can help people and advocate for yourself and for others. And then lastly, one of our models is that we are the change makers, guys. As young people, we have the ability to make change in the world, and we are the future, so we really have to look at ways that we can make positive change for society. And next, we're going to talk about why is speaking up important for you. It can help you become more self-sufficient and independent. And I know as we're all sitting in high school or somewhere, that we all eventually want to become self-sufficient and have our own stuff and be independent. And it helps you with your advocacy and self-determination skills. If you're speaking up for yourself, it's helping you to advocate, and it's helping you determine your own life. That's what self-determination is. It's allowing yourself to make your own decisions and determining what you're doing with your future. And again, I guess the third one is kind of like the same thing. It helps you be the one to make the decisions in your life, because who knows you better than yourself? And in the grand scheme of things, we all want to be a success in life. And really speaking up for yourself and knowing yourself and being able to tell the people that can help you what you need will help you be more successful. And that's why we have this lovely beach scene on our PowerPoint that says the word success, because that's what we're really going for, guys. I know it might seem like it's far away, but once you become an adult, you really have to look at your career and your life and see if you're going in the direction you want to be successful in your own mind. And next, we're going to talk about some barriers to speaking up. I know for me, for the longest time, sometimes speaking up can be really, really scary, and there's some things you think about when you're like, should I say this, should I not, what should I do? And those barriers are, you feel too shy and quiet to speak up. I know some people, are just like, look, I hate, talking to people in suits. I hate making phone calls. I hate it. It really, really stinks for me. So you really have to think about those things and be, I'm going to be okay doing this, and tell yourself, I can do this. Feeling frustrated and ready to explode. Sometimes you're mad when you want to speak up for yourself, so that can be a barrier. Not knowing how someone else will react. I mean, what if what you said makes somebody upset? I mean, that can be a valid thing to be worried about, so think about those things. Feeling like I don't know what to do. Sometimes you just feel like other people know better, and you don't know enough, so why would you say anything at all? And last is feeling afraid of saying the wrong things. I know sometimes we can say the wrong things, and that can be scary and keep us from speaking our mind and telling people how we feel and what we need. And sadly enough, we have some more of these barriers, and they are not wanting to cause a problem. Sometimes when you communicate your issues, it could be something that somebody doesn't want to hear, and it could be tough for them to hear, so it could be a problem. Not wanting to draw attention to yourself. Sometimes you just don't want to be the center of attention, and sometimes when you start advocating and speaking up, you do become the center of attention, thinking that no one else will understand you. Sometimes that can be scary too. Not liking the other person enough to try. This is tough, because if it's somebody that you're confronting that you don't like, you could just be like, oh, who cares? I'll leave it alone because I don't even like them anyway, so who cares? But maybe if you speak up, it could change your opinion of that person, and it could start a conversation that helps you then maybe to become friends and have an understanding with each other. Next is having too many thoughts and feelings at the same time. I know for me sometimes I feel like my head is going 100 miles an hour when I'm trying to think of something and wanting to be nice to everybody. This is the last one, and it kind of leads into the next slide, which is figure out what your barriers are, then come up with a plan to overcome them. What stops you from speaking up? So those are some things to confront, but you really have to think about when you're about to speak up for yourself and voice your opinions, what kind of effect is this going to have? Am I saying this stuff in the proper way? Am I communicating effectively with people? Am I saying what I truly feel, but am I saying it in a way that isn't going to ruffle everybody's feathers, and it allows people to respect what I'm saying and respect my opinion? So you really have to think about the barriers that I just went through, and then think about what ways can you overcome them, and be aware of them, guys, because it's a reality in this world today. So with that said, I believe I'm going to turn this over to Milo to discuss how to speak up 101.
Okay, and as we're switching over to Milo, if folks at your sites, you could let us know who's out there. A number of you did, but there's still a bunch of folks that didn't type in. Just kind of let us know who you are and where you're located, and if you have a group of young folks with you, if there are a couple of adults in the room, let us know who you are. It helps us kind of keep track of who we're talking to on the webinar. And with that, Again, I'm going to turn this over to Milo to talk about some strategies for speaking up.
All right, and before I get going, I want to say what I'm interested in hearing from you guys is, if you could, in the comment box or the question box there, I want to know what your barriers are. I want to know what the barriers are out there. So if you can comment and send a question in or whatever about what you guys think your barriers are, or the things that Ev just went over, I'd love to hear it. So moving forward, how to speak up 101. When you're going to give a talk, when you're going to speak up for yourself, it's really easy to get overwhelmed and to not know what the first step is or how to even approach what you want to talk about. And the biggest help that I can tell anybody is just to relax and take a breath. When you take that breath, just take a deep breath in, it's so much easier to clear your mind, focus, and just start to speak. And once you do, it becomes that much easier to get the point across and say the things that you want to say. Yeah. The next thing is to ask for directions. In class, do not be afraid. I know that I'm one. When I was in college or when I was in high school or when I go to some of these meetings or whatever, I'm afraid to raise my hand at times and say, I have no clue as to what you're talking about. Because I'm afraid that I'm the only one in the room who has no idea, or I'm the only one that's going to raise my hand and ask a question that, you know, I don't understand something or I want to know something more. I'm afraid that I'm going to be the only one. But chances are that you're not the only one, and your question, if you have the ability to put your hand up, put yourself out there, and ask that question, you're not only going to help yourself, but your chances are you're going to help out other people around you as well, because they probably have the same questions. So that leads us to the next one. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to embrace what your differences are. A lot of times people will tell you that you can't do something, that you need to blend in with everybody else, you need to go along with everybody else, and that's not always the case. You need to embrace your differences, and you need to be confident in yourself that you know what you're talking about when you want to speak up for yourself. Because, like Ev said, you know yourself better than anybody. When you start speaking, or when you start talking, speaking up for yourself, your heart may be faster, but people will start focusing on you. And that's a good thing. You're being heard, and that's very, very important. If you speak from the heart and believe in yourself, it is going to go a long way. People are going to respond to you more. People are going to feel that confidence and that passion, and they're actually going to respond. They're going to have that communication, that dialogue with you back and forth. They're going to hear your ideas. They're going to hear what you have to say and reciprocate it. And hopefully you'll actually start to get some resolutions to what you're speaking up about. And it's more apt to happen if you take that initial step, be confident, and speak up and speak from the heart. So that brings us to when and where to speak up. I've already talked about one of the places is, you know, school or classroom setting or whatever. But in everyday life, educating people to tell your story about things that you have experienced, things that are important to you. You're the person that knows your life better. You know your life better than anybody. So that makes you an expert in that field. So to talk about it, and it's the easiest thing to talk about. You know, anybody could ask, you know, you could try and talk up about politics or music, and if you don't know any of those subjects, it's going to be very difficult, but nobody knows you better than you. So talk to your family and friends. They're a great place to start because guess what? They're the ones who want to know you the best. Talking to your teachers, boss, people in the community, those are so important because those are the places that you need to go for professional life, for, you know, for learning, for working, for advocating for yourself in the community. Those are the people that need to know you and what you need out there. And speaking to groups, again, just trying to get your story out there, trying to get your experiences out there in the hopes that you can potentially change something for the better, and hopefully maybe change things for you for the better if you need something. Some more when and where to speak up. If you want to get involved in the community and you don't know exactly how to get connected, you don't know where to go or what to do, or you have a passion and you want to explore a passion for helping people and you're not exactly sure how, getting involved in the community is huge. Volunteering at local clubs or organizations, or even if you want to be go on a larger scale, writing to your legislator. Anything that you have a problem with, whether it be with IEPs, school, accessibility issues, anywhere, there is an avenue to talk about these things and to hopefully get things changed. And you need to start, the first step to approaching these changes and things is to speak up and advocate for yourself. So, tips for speaking up. You need to learn to make choices for yourself. You need to know what choices are important to you and why they're important to you. Because if you don't know, then it's very, very hard to communicate that to other people. Identify your needs and your wants. That's pretty easy to do. I think from a young age, we're all very knowledgeable about what we need and we want, or what we need, what we want. But you need to be realistic with those as well. You need to understand that what you want might not always be feasible, which means it's not always able to be done, and how to work around that. And what you want might not always be in the best interest of everybody, or even in the best interest of yourself. So you need to be able to get feedback as far as that and understand that. Share information with somebody that you trust. This is huge. If you have somebody, a sounding board, somebody that you can bounce ideas off of before you go and approach a bigger person or approach the powers that be, do it. Use that sounding board. It's great to have it there. Practice what you want to communicate. Go over it. Refine what you want to say, because more often than not, when we start speaking from the gut, when we start just going off, we'll often misspeak. We'll say things that we don't necessarily mean. So if you practice ahead of time, you're actually going to have less of a chance of doing that. Speak for yourself. Find your voice. We've sort of covered that. Don't give up if people don't listen the first time. More often than not in life, you'll find you're going to run into roadblocks. You're going to run into people that don't listen, or that want to listen but just don't know how to accommodate what you're asking. But the best way to get around that is just keep plugging away, keep trying. If you give up, nothing would have ever changed anywhere. And celebrate your accomplishments. I mean, anytime that we do something that, is worth doing and you get it done, hooray, it's worth celebrating. Go out and have a good time, enjoy it. So that's going to bring us to some personal stories of me and Evs. Some pros and cons of speaking out. I actually have a story that right now I can look back and laugh about, but at the time was not funny at all. And it highlights, in my opinion, the importance of speaking up for yourself and what it can accomplish. When I was in grade school, my school was a 3-story building, and it had an old elevator that required a key, just like most high schools do or whatever, but in this grade school it required a key. And the higher grades were on the 3rd floor all the time. So I was on the 3rd floor, and this particular day, the people who had the elevator key, because I always had to go to the teachers to go for the elevator key, the school actually refused to give me an elevator key because they thought I was going to lose it, or because I'd be irresponsible with it or whatever. So they refused to give me an elevator key, And on this particular day, the teachers that had the key on the 3rd floor were not there. They ended up being sick. So I go to lunch. So lunchtime rolls around. Everybody goes down to lunch, and they said that they would, get an elevator key, bring it back up, and get me downstairs for lunch. And 10 minutes roll by, 15 minutes roll by, 20 minutes roll by, and nobody's coming back. Everybody had gone to lunch, everybody went to recess, and I was stuck on the 3rd floor with no elevator key and no way to get downstairs. If I had advocated for myself and if I had spoken up prior to that, I might not have been in that situation. I could have adequately told them why I thought it was important that I have an elevator key, and maybe the whole situation could have been avoided. What ended up happening was the one classroom looked over the playground, and I actually made a paper airplane with a note on it and threw it down to the playground in order to finally get somebody to see that, hey, I'm still up on the 3rd floor and they need to come get me. So that's obviously you need to speak up for changes like that. And I did learn when I went to high school. I sort of ran into the same situation. I changed schools right after that, went to high school, and they wanted to not give me an elevator key as well, and I would not take no for an answer. I stuck by my guns. I made sure that they understood why I needed an elevator key and it needed to be in my possession. And I spoke up for myself, and it worked. I got an elevator key, and I had it every single day through high school. Never again was I stuck on one of the top floors without a way to get down. So those are some pros of speaking out. I'll let Ev go ahead and tell some of his stories as well here.
Yeah.
Because I'm interested in hearing what Ev has to say as for pros and cons.
Okay, over to you.
Cool. Can everybody see me okay? Yes?
Yeah.
I just want to say that's an awesome picture of me and Milo.
Yes, it is.
As you can see, well, if you can't really see Milo, we are both in wheelchairs, and my story revolves around the lovely snowstorm that we had. I want to say it was across Pennsylvania, but I want to say that it was more devastating in the eastern part of the state where I live. In the span of those week and a half that we had blizzard mania, whatever it was like 40 inches of snow or something ridiculous like that. That's where my story begins. I was in my college dorm, and obviously when it snows 40 bajillion inches, I don't exactly have the ability to get to class because even getting to a car to actually drive to class when the roads are clear is physically impossible unless I have 7 of my closest friends pull me through the blizzard. So I don't typically go to class when it snows like that. However, this particular snowstorm was pretty bad. So it took the campus quite a while to remove some of the snow. And because of that, I was unable to attend any classes for about a week. And this, for a while, I just thought, it snows a lot, and it was a tough storm, so, I understand. And I communicated with my teachers. I advocated for myself, and they were like, oh, that's really a shame you can't get here, but we understand. But then after a week, I'm thinking, my grades are going to, tank, and I'm going to fail, and I want to be a teacher. And just so you know, if you want to be a teacher, you pretty much have to keep, a B average in college. So, I'm look, if I don't make it to class, that B average is going to be struggling. So I started to communicate with people that I knew. I communicated with the housing department. I communicated with the maintenance staff on campus to tell them that, hey, I'm still stuck here. Everybody else is going to class, but the snow is still impossible for me in my wheelchair to get through. So could you please remove that? And sadly, I met some resistance to that. People, and this is, I guess, a con, and we talked about some of the barriers to speaking up. A lot of people just kind of dismissed me and didn't really listen to me. And I had people tell me they would take care of things, and then nothing would get done. So this is I was probably in my room for about 3 or 4 days of class until I finally said this is a little ridiculous. And so what ended up happening was, because people were not communicating with me, I ended up having to email the president of the university in order to communicate with her that this is an issue for me, and I know that there's other people on campus that use wheelchairs, so if I'm stuck, they're probably stuck too. And I ended up hearing about other people being stuck, and I emailed the president, and she was obviously very disappointed to hear, because really one of the biggest issues for the university was that I wasn't able to get to a food establishment to have food on campus. I actually had to have some of my lovely friends run and get me food, and because of all my advocating and speaking up for myself, I eventually got the number of the head chef of the university to deliver food to me, because I couldn't go anywhere until they could remove the snow. But needless to say, after communicating with the president of the university, the snow was magically moved away within the hour, and everything was good again. However, it was very frustrating because I made several phone calls, sent several emails, and it can be tough, and it kind of wanted to give up. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be mean to people, but you have to let them know and be able to tell them in a way that is respectful. I know it was tough for me to email the president in a professional manner because I was frustrated, but I actually had friends read over it to make sure it sounded okay before I sent it, just so that it didn't sound like I was attacking anyone. But it can be frustrating. But I think it really, but then after I did it and I was communicating with people about my issues, it could change the policies for the university in the future with their snow removal, because we know that every year in Pennsylvania it pretty much snows to some degree, so maybe it could change the policies, and I'm hoping to do that, because I was asked after this event to go on to their Committee for Accessibility on campus to help other people with all disabilities get access to the university in effective ways. So that's also a pro, is that if you speak up for yourself, opportunities can open up to you just by you opening your mouth and communicating the things that you need. So that was a very tough situation for me, and being a person that advocates for myself very well was frustrating because I thought I knew what I was doing. So that's another thing to say, is that even if you learn this stuff and you say, hey, I'm speaking up for myself, I'm an advocate, I'm very open about my disability, I let people know, there's still going to be times when stuff comes up and it's going to frustrate you. So kind of like Milo brought up about the elevator key, is that some people, even after we got to high school, he's talking about himself and telling him he needs it, but they're still saying no, but he had to fight for it. So that's my story, and for that reason I hate snow. And the next part of this presentation, after our lovely personal story, is what can you do this summer, this being the end of the school year, yay, and also being the end of our webinars. What can you do to achieve your goals and become more empowered this summer? So we have some ideas for you. As Milo said, you can volunteer in your community. I mean, that could be going to a soup kitchen and helping serve. That could be going on the highway and helping pick up trash. That could be helping at a day camp somewhere. I mean, it could be anything. Religious participation. If you want to join a youth group, if you want to help at the church, you can do that. School participation. Obviously, in the summer, that might be a little tough, but I know that there is summer programs in schools to help you that you can volunteer for. And as Milo said before, extracurricular activities. Join a club, guys. Play sports. I know sometimes that doesn't seem like, when you get involved, like you're on a team, but that's being in the community. That's a place that you can meet people. And also, if you like to do like theater, if you like to do stuff like Milo does and do graphic design for people, if you like to do even, I know some people will volunteer at a radio station at times. I know that I have a friend that does that just because he enjoys it. So there's ways if you enjoy theater, media, or art or something like that. There's ways to impact the community in that way. Also, this summer you can develop a plan to achieve your goals. So you have to think about it. What goal do I want to achieve? And today, I would challenge you guys to select a goal, what you want to do, whether that be, I mean, it could be losing weight. It could be that you're going to run 2 miles a day. It could be that you're going to help your parents more around the house with chores. And then think about it and do it so that you can achieve it every day and achieve your goals. And actually, it'll boost your self-esteem if you know that you're achieving your goals and this is one that you want to accomplish. And it could be something that you do, that you select a goal every day, that I'm going to do this. I'm going to do something every day that I want to do to achieve a goal. And last, you want to make a plan to achieve your goals. And this slide is just kind of like an example. This one is like it's a written down like what, where, when, how long, and how you're going to be supported to do those things. This one is volunteering in the community, and somebody wants to contact their local food bank about volunteering for them. And then you want to tell yourself, this is what I want to do. I'm going to volunteer once a week. And as we said before, it's going to be at a local food bank. And when is that? It's Saturdays and throughout the summer. And support would just be somebody that you know you can contact about this. And then hopefully you're thinking to yourself, if I do this, my reward for doing this could be a reference letter. And that could be for an employer. That could be for a college. That could be somewhere. I mean, so you have to think about what you want to do and then make a plan. And then you can kind of map out what those things are and how you're going to do it. And I know it seems like, well, that's a lot of writing or that's kind of long to do, but really if you do this and you think of a plan, it's going to be a lot easier to do the things you want. And I guarantee as you move on in your life, a to-do list, if you don't already use a planner, you should probably try and get one, because once you start achieving goals and doing things in the community, you become awful busy. So plan things out and realize what the goals are and what you're hoping to do from this. So I hope that helps, and I challenge you to do that today. Or when the school year ends, think to yourself, what am I going to do? Am I going to work every day? Am I going to go babysit am I going to be a babysitter? What am I going to do to help the community? And last, I know in our last webinar we kind of went over this. I know that Rachel went over this the last webinar, but I kind of wanted to bring it up again because I think it's cool, and it's about being your own empowered advocate. You want to grow and embrace yourself. You want to know as you make your goals. You want to know that you're growing from it, and you want to enjoy those things. And you want to inspire other people through what you do. I know sometimes it's hard to believe, but people are watching us, guys. And if you do things that are positive, you're going to inspire people. The next one is fighting for your rights. You guys know what your rights are, and you know what you want, so you have to be able to fight for those things and advocate. Fighting and advocacy is kind of like, I know fighting, people think, you know, violence and all that stuff, but really fighting for your rights is advocating. Know what you want and stick up for those things. And next is treat others with respect. You want to be respected, and you want to treat others like you want to be treated, so make sure you do that. And really, the E is my personal favorite, because my goal in life is to educate others, not just about social studies when I become a teacher, but also about living life with a disability and setting positive goals for your life, regardless of the obstacles you face in life. So as you're going through things and you're advocating and you feel empowered, you can educate others, and make sure you try and do that, because we have the power to do that. Because as Milo said, we are our own experts in ourselves and then in what we do know and what we do research on. And determine your course. This is just make your own decisions and know what you want to do, and focus on your goals and love what you're doing, and you write your own story. So, and you only get one life, so you might as well go at it with 110%, because before you know it, you know, who knows? You live every day to the fullest every day. You never know. So just really, really enjoy life and do what you want to do and set high goals and go to achieve them. So with that said, we want you guys, as we said at the end of every webinar, to stay in touch with us. That means we want you to attend the July Transition Conference, which is July 21st to the 23rd in Penn State. And that is on our website, which I think Milo, who has done a lot of work on that website, would like to show maybe where you can find those links to get the application for a scholarship for us to help you get to the conference. And really, that scholarship will pay for the registration fee and your hotel. You just have to worry about getting yourself there. And I believe there is some lunches that are provided, but I think some dinners there. Michael, if I'm wrong, I hope I'm not, but I think...
You're right on, Ev. It's just the evening meals that you'd have to pay for.
Okay, but I think that the scholarship, I know that they're really, really handy, and it's a really great conference. We have great events. We do trainings like this, but they're about different things, and we're hoping to have like over 150 young people there this year. I mean, that's our lofty goal, and I think we're going to be pretty close, I hope. And we also have fun evening activities. We have a dance. We have all kinds of fun stuff planned. So, and also visit our Facebook, guys. This is our new URL to the Facebook. I know it's still kind of crazy, but it is shorter, so it's not like really, really long. But go visit our Facebook, become a fan, write to us, let us know. And then lastly, I'm going to turn this over to Milo to talk about our new PYLN website. This is pretty cool. As a person who's been on the board for so long, it's really, really great to see us have our own cool, awesome website. So thank you guys. And Milo, you want to talk about the lovely new website that you have so graciously created?
All right. Sorry, this is going to cut off my face just a little bit, so I'm going to slide that over. Here's our new website. So as you can see, we've got our new articles right up here, and as Ev was talking about, as his face, lovely face pops up here, as Ed was talking about, we've got the Transition Conference coming up, so if you slide down on the home page of PYLN.org to our calendar, you see Pennsylvania Community on Transition Conference, which is the conference in July. You can click there, and it'll just take a second here to load. You can actually, we've got a map here of it, tells a little bit about it, but you can also download the brochure and download the Youth and Parent Scholarship application. And you can register for the conference and sign up at the patent website. There's also a link for that there. So I definitely encourage you guys to visit the website if you're interested in going to the conference, or if you just want to learn more about PYLN. We've got a little more about us, about the president as well, the articles that we've been doing. You can contact us. So if you have any questions, want to schedule a talk with us, or if you just want to get in touch with other PYLN members, other youth or whatever, you can also jump on the forums here. We've got a place to introduce yourself, to give or ask for advice. So if you're having any problems with anything, or if you have any service or group reviews that you've got great feedback or bad feedback or whatever, you can post it all right there. So that's a little bit about the website. Great place to get in touch with us and keep up to date about PYLN and how you can make a difference. So I'll turn it back over to Michael, and we'll do some Q&A, I believe.
Okay, yes. And actually, I'm going to leave the camera on you, Milo, because we do have some questions that folks brought up about barriers that they have experienced to speaking up. The first comment comes in from Michelle from Jenkinstown. It says, she's saying that I don't want to hurt people's feelings when I say things or speak up. How can I do that? So in other words, how can I assert myself without hurting people's feelings?
That's one of the toughest barriers to overcome, in my opinion. And the reason is because I have that same problem. I don't want to hurt feelings. I think it's more of a change of mindset than it is anything else you can do. You can do like Ev said and bounce ideas off of people, but anytime that you speak up, you're going to have people that dislike what you have to say or dislike you for whatever reason based on what you're saying. It's sad, but it's a fact of the world. And my philosophy on it has changed to the point where I say I would rather somebody dislike me for something that I'm doing than something that I'm not doing, if that makes sense. So as far as hurting feelings, it's going to happen. There's always people that are going to take what you're trying to do for yourself or for others personally. I would try. It's the hardest barrier to overcome, absolutely. Ev, do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, actually I do, and you don't have to put me on the screen or anything, but I'll just...
I will put you on the screen. Just give me 1 second.
You're going to put me on? Okay.
Sure.
Milo drinks some water. That's nice.
There
That's
you
water,
go.
right, Milo?
It's early.
Really, the thing for me, and I kind of agree with Milo to some extent, actually a lot of extent. I mean, I agree with him completely, but I think the biggest thing for me is communicating respectfully with people. That way, they can definitely say, even if they disagree with your opinion or they disagree with what you said, they can say that they respect you and they respect your opinion. Because sometimes when you say things people don't agree with, they automatically assume that they lose respect for who you are. But if you say it in a way that is professional and polite, they will most times respect your opinion and respect who you are. And they might actually value your different opinion. But Milo's right in that you're going to run into those people. The question is, are you able to communicate your feelings, but then also have a dialogue with that person back and forth about what they feel, because maybe they could change your opinion based on how they feel. So I think it is communicating respectfully, but also allowing other people to voice their opinions so that they know that what you're saying, you have the ability to hear what other people have to say, if that makes sense. Because sometimes when we believe something so strongly, we forget to listen to other people's opinions. And I think that's one of the biggest things you can learn about speaking up, whether it be at your IEP, whether it be with your parents. Listen to their opinion too, but also make it known that this is what you want to do, but let them have their say. And I think it would go a lot easier if it's an open dialogue or an open conversation, whatever you want to say.
And I have kind of a follow-up question. This is Jonathan from Pittsburgh Public Schools, the City Connection. He's stating that sometimes he becomes scared, and he doesn't want to cause a ruckus or a conflict or say something wrong.
Right. I know this is one of the toughest things for me when I go to meetings where I'm representing the PYLN, and I am, at some points, the youngest person in the room. But I've kind of embraced this thing that I am the youngest person in the room, and that the more you open your mouth, even if it is wrong, people will help you if you just ask and say, I don't understand something. Or if you give an opinion and then somebody corrects you, say, thank you, I have a better understanding, that I was unaware of this, or I didn't know that. So don't be afraid to admit when you're wrong. So kind of just like say what you're feeling, and then if they say, look, this is the facts, you can say, hey, look, I'm really, really sorry. I'm kind of new at this. I'm learning, but thank you for teaching me that. And you'll be surprised what you can learn from just saying what you're feeling and then learning from other people around you. And once you find that person that helps you do that, latch on to them, like as like a mentor. I know for me, working with Michael so much, if I have a question about something professional that we're doing with the PYLN, I'll call him and ask, what's the best way to handle this, and am I looking at this in the way that I should be? So I think that I just think that there's ways that you can learn so that when you are talking, you don't say as many things wrong because you're learning. But don't be afraid to be wrong and then be corrected. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks. Milo, I'm going to flip the screen over to you. There's a question that came in for you, so just give me 1 second.
Okay.
And this question comes from Megan from Jenkintown High School. And she's saying that a big step for her, especially at this time of year, was having people sign her yearbook. She's nervous to ask people to sign her yearbook. What should I do? She's never asked anybody to do this before, and she's not quite sure how to proceed.
Okay. That I was on yearbook in high school, so I can sort of relate a little bit to that. In general, people are reciprocate how you approach them. So it's asking them if they would sign your yearbook will oftentimes get you the question about signing theirs as well. So I know it can be intimidating, but in general, most times you'll want to get some of your closest friends or people that you want to remember, and those memories are what you really want to concentrate on. So if this is sort of a situation where if you don't do it, you're going to regret it later. So it's sort of working up the courage to just ask. And the worst they can say is no, but more times than not, that you're not going to get a no. Most people have no problem signing your yearbook. I actually I had that problem in high school to a certain extent early on, and I actually finally worked up the courage to start asking people for yearbook for them to sign and such. And by the time I had asked, it was so late in the day or so late in class that I actually didn't get all of the people that I wanted. But I never once got anybody that said that they wouldn't sign. It's pretty funny where I think the fear of asking is actually bigger than the actual asking. If you just do like the steps that we said, take a deep breath and just ask. Sometimes if you even approach and say, hey, I've got this specific page, be really prepared. Could you sign right here? I have this specific page that I want you to sign, or right by your picture, or whatever it is. Sometimes even being that much more prepared will help you get through that initial fear of asking.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thanks. Ev, I'm going to flip this over to you for a couple other questions from City Connection folks. So
sure.
1 second. Okay, actually it's two people asking a question, but it's kind of a similar kind of question, so I'm going to give it to you all at once and let you go from there. Jasmine is talking about barriers again, and that she's afraid to ask or speak up because she doesn't want to feel stupid. And Maggie is saying that kind of along with that, she's afraid of getting hurt. And that makes her anxious. So I guess one thing is speaking up, feeling stupid or ridiculous when you're asking questions, but then afraid of like somebody slamming you or getting hurt.
Well, first I'll address like feeling stupid or feeling like ridiculous when you're speaking up. It's hard sometimes when you are speaking up that some people are probably going to disagree with you, and then they're going to tell you that, man, that was really dumb, or why did you say that, or what do you mean? But I think it really comes down to it is what you're speaking up for, what you truly believe in. And if it is, and if people say that was dumb or ridiculous, then you can just say, I hope that you can respect what I had to say, and that's my opinion, and you believe in that. And it kind of comes back to what Milo was saying about believe in what you're saying, believe in the cause that you're speaking up for, and know that this is how you believe, and this is your beliefs. So I think when you start to look at what you really believe in and speaking up for yourself, it's going to be a lot easier to not feel as if you're dumb or ridiculous for speaking up, because you know, or you feel in your heart that what you're saying matters to you, and that's the only person that I don't want to sound like you shouldn't worry about others, but when it comes to what you believe in, if you're comfortable with your beliefs, that should be good for you. Like, that's good to know that that this is what you believe in. You can speak up for those things. Well, I hope that makes sense and answers your question. But I do know at times, like when you talk to adults, sometimes when you might point something out to them, you can feel dumb because they might correct you, or you can feel stupid or ridiculous. But really, the more you speak up and show responsibility for yourself, even if you are wrong, the more people are going to respect what you have to say and give you opportunities to then speak up later. If you're a person that speaks up, they're going to then ask your opinion. If you're not, they're going to just assume that you're okay with everything. But the more you speak up, even if you are wrong, but there's sometimes you may be right, and it may help somebody in the future when you're communicating with them. As far as being hurt, and I'm going to answer this, but then I'm going to ask Milo to kind of give his opinion on this, because for me, this is one of the hardest barriers, is that when I speak up, somebody's going to say something that then hurts my feelings and then cause me to react emotionally, and then maybe say something that I regret later, or I say, or it causes a fight or something like that. So again, I really point back to know that you're speaking your opinion and that some people may disagree with you. And if you go in with that point of view, when they disagree with you, you may not find yourself being hurt as often, that it won't bother you as much because you already know that what I'm saying could hurt somebody's feelings and make them respond mean to me or be upset with me and then say something mean to me. So just know that that's going to happen, and then almost like tell yourself, take a deep breath and tell yourself, am I ready to say this because this could cause a problem with so-and-so? But then also be ready to then think about like a solution to those problems. If somebody says something to you, you can tell them, hey, what you said really, really hurt me, but I understand that we see things differently. But I still, I still care about you, and I want to tell you that what you said hurt me, and that I'd like to move forward from this. And most times that works, because usually when you start speaking up and people initially get upset, eventually everybody calms down, and then you can have a conversation about your feelings and what you said and what was said and everything. So I hope that helps. Milo, do you have anything to say on any of those at all?
I would say that, oh, we're going to switch over to me. I would agree with you on pretty much on everything. The only thing I would add is that, again, one of the best ways to overcome any fear that you may have of speaking up is changing your perception of it. And I know it's sort of hard to understand at this point, but as you get older, you'll understand a little bit more. But the people that you're afraid of hurting, if they're not the type of people that that are going to get over it, then they're really not the people to be around. And I know that sounds very, very cliche, but I have so many friends that I have differing opinions on so many different things, and we've gotten into heated discussions and arguments. Professionally, I've gotten into, disagreements with people, and it is a concern and it is a fear, but if it's somebody that's never going to get over it, then there's really nothing you can do to change their mind anyway. Mm-hmm. So I hate to say why bother, but you can only go so far in what you can do. Right. And the other 50% or the other 60% is how they take it and how they react to it. So if they're the type of people that are going to react negatively all the time and take everything personally, and there's nothing you can do to overcome that, then they're really probably not the type of people that you want to be worried about anyway. I know that sounds very cold, and Ed, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but
No, I mean I think you're right, and I think it's important to you made a key point there, is that kind of conversation when you're talking to somebody and you're afraid how they're gonna react. So it's up to them to react how they're going to, and there's no way that you can know how they're gonna react. So the only thing that you can control is the way you respond and the way that you present things that you're saying. And then also having an idea that this could be a problem, and then just trying to reach out to them. And if they reject it, then what else can you do? So it really is, that's the way that it is. I hope that answers the question.
Okay.
Thanks, Milo.
Okay, another question came in, and this actually, Milo, I'll throw this out to you first, came from a VR counselor, Darby Schultz. And basically the question is, she wants to learn how to figure out how to help students or young people to learn their barriers and advocate for themselves, especially those whose parents have been advocating and the student hasn't learned or been given the chance to be empowered. In other words, the parents do everything for that young person and have not allowed that young person to start to do this stuff for themselves. Any thoughts?
So the first steps to maybe getting them to take control of what they're doing.
You got it.
That's a tough one. I really think the best way is to maybe start letting them understand why them advocating for themselves or the decisions are important for them, and it might be starting with, and I don't know what age we're talking about, but maybe starting with things that are important to them. So if it's talking about a sports team or talking about what they want for lunch, small steps might be the best way to start in that type of a situation. Ev, as someone who's going into teaching, you might have a better answer for that than I would.
I agree with what you said, but I think the biggest thing for me, this was me. I am involved with VR a lot with my own case and with just in the professional setting. And I know for me, I was that guy that had a mom who was like this super advocate, and she did everything, and I kind of didn't know. I knew that we went to meetings and did stuff, but I didn't really care because everything was taken care of, so I was that guy. And I think the biggest thing for me was learning what my barriers truly are. Like, and that may mean that that person is just kind of like thrown to the wolves. I hate to put it that way, or make it that much of a reality, but I think the biggest thing for me was being told to try something out and then failing at it. Whether that be giving them assignments to do things on their own, and even if they resist, you can help them along and everything, but I think it's important for them to understand these are what your barriers are and help them to take ownership of those. I know for me at first, I had to figure out a way to get to work with no car, and so I had to be the one to communicate with paratransit to get there, but I had never made a phone call like that or even knew anything about services or anything like that. So for me, it was a big thing, but it was pretty much presented to me like, look, you want to work, you don't have a car, this is what you have to do. This is your barrier you're facing right now. So here's the idea that I have to help you do that. You can call paratransit and set that up, and then you can get to work, but here's what you have to call so-and-so. And you'll be surprised when they become aware of what their barriers are, how easy is it for them to then communicate with others and say, look, this is what I really want to do, and I need to do this in order to do that. So that is a very, it's a tough experience, but it's helpful because you realize this is what I want to do, these are the barriers that I have, and here's what I have to do to get there. So if they really embrace what they're doing, you'll be surprised when you give them assignments of like to fix the barriers or to accommodate the things they need, how easy it is for them to then start advocating. But the whole, I guess the other thing is too, you don't want the parent who has been involved all the time to then eventually take over for them. That's not what you want to do. So it's almost like you want to make sure they make the phone call or whatever they're doing in your presence, and that way that there's some support, and that there is some mistake, you can then talk about that, because everybody makes mistakes, and I think they have to be cool with that too. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
And I just wanted to add,
I just think,
I'm sorry, Ev, just because this is something I think that needs to happen early too. When a kid is starting to transition, 14, 15, or even before that, that there is a discussion with the family and the young person about the importance of kind of switching those roles and providing some more independence. Mm-hmm. And you hit on all this stuff, Ev, that it really doesn't just magically happen. I don't think that young person is already going to say, okay, now we're advocating and you need to go out and do this, but you do some prep work and kind of help that young person to become more able to advocate, to speak up for themselves. But I think it also involves talking to that family, and kind of having that really hard conversation of, you're not always going to be here, you're not going to always be around, and the young person really needs to take some ownership and responsibility.
Yes. Because sometimes the parents are as hard to deal with as the young person themselves, because they want to help with everything, and that's a parent's instinct, but they have to realize, like Michael said, that they're not going to be the ones later on in charge of their child's life when they become an adult. So,
right.
Yeah.
So thank you, guys. Another question, just quickly, it came from Nat, and it's concerning the fact that he's having difficulties getting waivers or waiver funding, and there's not much in the area that he lives in. And is there any suggestions?
I know I can give like a really I know in the Harrisburg area, and I believe I know who Nat is. I think I've met Nat before, and I think he's from down near the Philadelphia area. I know if you call the number 1-800-LIVE-WELL, you can call there, and they can connect you with your local Center for Independent Living, and they might have some knowledge about waiver programs and about other things that they can help you access. I know that you might not have a Center for Independent Living in your local area, but there is one that is pretty awesome in the Philadelphia area called Liberty Resources. And I'm pretty sure that they would have some kind of database or book of like waiver programs and the processes on how to apply for those, or at least they should. If I know a Center for Independent Living, they would know, and they might even have some funding there. I can't guarantee that, but I know that they would know who to contact and where to go in order to get, at least to have a conversation with somebody that might be knowledgeable. And you might find out that it might be tough in your area to do that, but I think that that might be a place to start. If you want to Google Liberty Resources, you can do that, or you can call 1-800-LIVE-WELL. So that would be my suggestion on that.
The other option might be the Special Kids Network. It is something that's operated through the Department of Health, and they do work with young folks, not just kids. That would be another resource that they may be able to help you work through it. It is a shame that the waiver system in Pennsylvania is somewhat tough. There are not that many waivers that folks can get for supports, but those I think would be two suggestions. And Milo, I don't know if you have any others.
I can't think of any offhand.
Okay. One last question, Ev, for you, and this actually came from the folks that are in Jenkinstown High School. And you kind of answered this already, but it's, has anyone ever made fun of you?
Honestly, for speaking up, sure. And I'm gonna be real honest and say that my own parents were the ones that did that. They told me that I was making the wrong choices and that I would eventually find out that the choices I was making were wrong. But really in school, in terms of like my disability, not really, because I had enough friends that if I ever had an issue with people, I had enough people around me to support me through that. But really with speaking up, I mean, it's not really making fun of somebody when you question what they're saying, or you have somebody think that what you're saying is crazy. It's more them disagreeing with you. And I think if you really think about a plan for yourself and you know that you can do things through a plan, then you can show people that what I said was correct. And that for me was a big thing with my parents. They disagreed with some of the decisions I was making, but I was able to show them that I had a plan in order to do that. And then when I did everything, they were like, well, you were right, and we're proud of you because you showed us that you're able to take responsibility for your own actions and do your own thing. So people will, but you have to just know what you want and go after it. And if you have a plan to do that, you can show people.
Great, and that is it for the questions. So I don't know, do we have a last slide just as a follow-up? I think we might. Maybe not.
I don't believe, but...
No, I guess we don't. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap up, and if any closing thoughts, Ev, and then I'll flip this to Milo.
Thank you guys. For those of you who have been here for the entire webinar series, thank you. For those of you who are new to this, we hope to do this again in the future, so come back. Please come to the conference. It's going to be a blast. You'll get to meet me and Milo and all the people that you saw on these webinars throughout the year. So we really, really hope that you are interested in this stuff and that it's helped you. And that if you have any questions, please come to our website, post the questions, become a member on Facebook. Really, because young people need to just have conversations like this. And the PYLN is a great place to come to have people that understand what you're going through. And it's good to know that you're not the only one going through those things, and we hope to be that support for you. So thanks a lot. And Milo, anything?
Yep, just wanted to thank you guys for participating. Remember, speak up for yourself. Network, get to know other people who are going through situations with you. You can do that through PYLN and the website. And have conversations with people. Have a good summer, and hope to see you guys all at the conference in July.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. It was a great hour, and